Now, back to the point about the false flag discussion is I think this is going to be added to the conversation because this is what's needed because they're losing. And so what I'm worried about is where this ends up going. Now, I just want to include this because I find it interesting. This is what Mike Davis put out on the 17th. So first of all, it's a clip that we'll play for you. Now, in case we haven't talked, if you haven't seen me talk about this ridiculous argument about Sharia law, there's a reality of that in the world. But first of all, understand that wouldn't be legally possible in this country. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but it's unconstitutional. So again, we've seen what our governments are doing. But the reality is there's no legal mechanism through which that would even happen, but certainly possible. Also, then you could take a second to look, and you can even ask Grok if it makes you feel better, and realize what a small sliver of even the people that they claim or want. The Muslims in this country, by and large, do not want any of that. I'll read it to you in a second. According to their own discussions, according to what they say out loud. Okay, if you want to get into the secret behind the scenes, wink, wink, what we think they mean, well, that's your opinion of what you think they mean. They're over here doing different things and saying different things. There are people in any category that are ridiculously extreme. Left, right, Muslim, Jew, Christian, black, white, all of it, because it exists. There's extremism in all of it. And any one of them should be called out. It's not unique to a certain color or religion. Anyone saying otherwise is a disgusting person and is trying to deceive you, I think, because they're blinded by their own hatred or because they're dishonest. My opinion. All that aside, what the argument is here is that they're bringing Sharia law and they want to impose it on us. All that is about is trying to convince you that there's Muslims trying to take over our country while the whole country is becoming aware that Zionism has done that already. And what do you think Zionism hates the most? I think you already know where that goes. So the point is that Mike Davis playing this clip, which says, terrifying Islamic scholars in the U.S. reveal their plan, which is not at all what they say or happens in this video, but it says there are not enough Muslims in America right now to demand full Sharia law and replace the secular system. That, by the way, is not even a quote in this discussion. Let's play it in a second and call out these disgusting people. What they say in there is about influence for their communities. And the idea that what they want to do is potentially find themselves in positions of power and influence and try to change their communities. You know what that's called? Democracy. It's amazing to me, and I don't support democracy, mob rule, but realizing that what they're actually criticizing is what they tell you they're fighting for everywhere in the world. The idea that people can move here, become a part of their community, and then try to change it for the ways that they want it to be, whether Christian or Jew or just because you like things a certain way. It's wild to me. I'll play it for you. It'll blow your mind how disgusting these people are. And it's for them just because they don't like Muslims and they think these people are dangerous. Now, look, you could argue that that's the case, but I can show you tons of examples of people who are like the same thing about a person who practices Muslim culture or Muslim religion, but is not very ardent to it, like a Christian who doesn't go to church or a Jew who just, it's the same thing everywhere. And the idea that they're all the same is just disgusting. It's not true. And so here's what he says in response to the statement that he didn't check because it's not what actually is said, but that they don't care because it's about trying to push this narrative. Mike Davis says, "Dear Islamists," which is not even a term they mean. That's not even what they think it means. What they're talking about is terrorists, but they use Islam as a synonymous with terrorism because they're disgusting. It says, try it as in to make this plan happen that no one down there is calling for. Dear Islamists, try it. We dare you. Unlike Europeans, Americans have guns. Well, Europeans have guns too, you moron. The point is that he's saying, we dare you? Come and try and make that. I mean, think about what a child that is, first of all. And secondly, realize all he's trying to do is make himself look tough when he's responding to a video that doesn't even say what they claim it does. And all he's pointing to is something that's not even, that's not what's going to happen. Do you believe if Mike Davis was standing face to face with people that were threatening violence, he would go ahead and try it, bring it on? Probably not. In this case, what he's trying to do is look tough about fighting things that aren't even happening. Secondarily, if it was happening, why would you goat them into doing it? Who cares if Americans die? Bring it on. We'll fight you back. Yeah, that's the mindset of your government. You're expendable. We'll go bring it. Go ahead and try. Because I'm not going to be the one fighting. My family's not going to be fighting. You guys will fight it, but bring it on. Just ridiculous. Now let's watch this video. Shoot, did I miss that? Hold on. Pretty sure I grabbed that. I'm going to grab it right now. Either way. How strange. It's weird. It's got feedback right there. So why I think this is interesting is, first of all, it's a group of what appear to be Islam, Muslim academics. which I don't know. I can't speak to because there's no information about it. They're not giving you any insight into what they think, what they believe, and where they've gone, which clearly matters because to them, Muslims are all the same. Totally not a bigoted perspective. And they're speaking about how you influence your community for what they believe is the right. Like, are we pretending that Christians don't do that? That Christians don't sit around, whether in this country or not, and discuss how they can bring Christian values to their community? Is it only wrong when it's values you don't agree with? Then you're gross. It's just ridiculous. Or is it when Jewish people do it in this country? Is it wrong? No, it's not wrong when Jews or Christians or anybody try to influence what they believe is in their community. Yeah, there's people in this very conversation would argue, well, it's bad when the Jews do it because they're the problem. And you're just the same as the ones doing this about Muslims. Some of them in any conversation, you're right, but not all of them because that's just not accurate. So here is the clip.
Okay, if we don't want them to implement secularism.
Not the same thing, by the way. Now, understand the Sharia law conversation is varied depending on different extremists. The point is it's about a sort of Muslim culture influence that is like religious law, just for the easy sake of the conversation. So what he's talking about is secular versus non-secular, right? So a government that separates religion and state versus those that blend them together. Israel blends them together, just like Iran. Funny how we criticize one, but not the other, even though one is wildly more extreme. And I'm talking about Israel.
Do we want them to implement? They say that America.
Here's what's funny. He cuts off. So if you're believing what he just was about to say with implement Sharia law, then why would he cut that out? The reality is, like, you'll see what he's talking about here. But see, what they're constantly trying to do is to convince you with things like, if you want, by Israeli intelligence. Current and former Israeli intelligence founded and run that platform. And that's what Jones and Laura Loomer and all the rest use. I just saw Naomi Wolf share something from MER. It's that red circling little it's what they do is either pluck out the worst people they can find who are, their unique opinion about why every Jew should be killed or whatever, and make that out to be every Muslim, or they have literal agents, by the way, has been exposed over the years, like literal people pretending to be Palestinians, saying certain things, or it's just gross. But if we don't think that's happening, I don't know what you're watching in the world. My point, though, is that they're deliberately trying to present this as something. Then why would they have to manipulate you into thinking it if it was so obvious and everywhere?
Now, okay, there is not enough Muslims for them and to implement Islam. But now,
again,
it is our challenge as du'at, as intellectuals, as academic.
Right. So, but the extremist monster academic intellectual.
To present solutions based on Islamic values. But and
again, to some people in the MAGA, not MAGA, not the real, with the dishonest, I shouldn't say that, who knows where these varied opinions go, but people in the partisan side who believe they're all Islamic values are terrorism. That's what Loomer would tell you. That's what Loomer literally said in front of an entire room of Indian people, or I guess in an Indian location, which was predominantly Indian, where there's a lot of Muslims. And she literally sat there and told them why their very religion was disgusting and ruining the world. She's horrible.
The second level degree, not to tell them replace secularism with Islam, it won't work.
So just to be clear, he said not to tell them that, and not to tell them, which you could argue means to secretly do it, but all he's really talking about is to change the culture to where that's what they believe it should be. Now, you could argue that's dangerous, but this is not surreptitious. This is not this is some kind of public conversation about how they can change and influence their communities in a place that we argue is supposed to be evolving based on the community. Democracy, or whatever else we call it. If we don't agree with that, then say that. Then say you want a only white Christian country or whatever you think it should be, and that's the way it is because that's what it was. It's not the truth. But then be honest about what you actually think. If you want it to be an all brown country, an all white country, an all Christian country, and all whatever, clearly people seem to want a certain category, maybe just a certain color, maybe only Christians and Jews. I don't know what they want. My point, though, is to understand that if you pretend that we are the country we've always said we were, it would include anybody from anywhere who can come in and influence what they want. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's supposed to be a majority, right? So unless there's a majority, and this is where like the Dearborn, Michigan point comes into play. Isn't that important? To think about the reality of what we talked about there. And first of all, recognize they have aggressively misrepresented that situation every single time, but that there is a large Muslim population and they're there in this community and they have a community, they want certain values represented. And so they vote for those things and it happens. That's not Sharia law. It's not even close. It's not even legally possible. I mean, it's just the same old tired conversations. I'm taking too much time on this, but I think it's important. I have a whole section that I haven't gotten into yet of just this aggressive Like coming from the meme, therefore I am, and cat turd, and that whole same kind of like, but honestly, the group that I think is like this own little island right now, because most everybody, the conservatives, are starting to see that they're just blind support no matter what, but that they're just pushing this hardcore anti-Muslim sentiment. It's right. It's like post 9/11 stuff. And what did that come from? Israel. It's the same thing. And now they're in a war, so Israel's pumping it back through again. That's my opinion.
Yeah, presenting Islam as a civilizational alternative.
So different than forcing it, right? Presenting them with the alternative and let them.
This needs from us a different way of addressing this generation, addressing, in fact, the whole world, trying to get into.
Just imagine watching this and acting like this is representative of Islamist extremists trying to overtake your country. You know, while the obvious point is happening that we're talking about today. I mean, you could argue that's what they somehow mean behind all of this, but this is just a very basic intellectual conversation about how they could potentially influence what they believe the world should be like in communities with their values, and that they're telling you that we should present them. I mean, it seems very clear to me.
Key positions where you are influencing the decisions. Yeah.
Right. And this is my point from before. That's what they jump on and go, ooh, they're trying to work their way into government. Yeah, maybe that's what they mean. But what he just said was try to gain your way into positions of power to influence what the outcome. Is that not what democracy is? Is that not what we claim every group is doing? Is it only bad when certain colors do it? I mean, you have to understand, there are Jewish organizations that fight for that very thing in this country. There are Christian organizations. And you could argue that there's weaponized points of all of them. And if you have an issue, then it shouldn't be about one, it should be about all of them. The bottom line is this is just how this country operates. I just think that's very important to reiterate.
Decision making. If we are, whatever we do, and we are not influenced.
I sure as hell would like to see the not completely clipped up and edited thing. Like this, how do you understand? This is their effort to make it bad. And it's not. With all the clips.
If we are, whatever we do, and we are not influentials, we cannot influence the how politics is running. We are not influence the decision-making processes.
We know that.
Right. So that was in the middle of the point. What he was getting to is that, you know, we're not influential. We're not influencing that. And the ultimate point it seems he was making, without further context, is that we should do our best to explain what we believe and hope that people, like his argument in the beginning was that we shouldn't just come out and just push the Islam versus the whatever he framed it at the beginning, but rather explain the difference and talk about, it's such a fundamentally different stance than what Zionism does everywhere. And whether you think that's terrorism or not, it's just forceful, like pushing that you have to feel this way. And if you don't, you're bad. It's just very different. Now, look, there are Muslims that act like that. That's the point. Now, for whatever reason, they just cut it in with this other random guy who I have no insight in. I don't know what he believes. I don't know. What I believe, based on the way they cut this, is this, because this is the guy that mentioned Sharia law, is that a guy discussing what those guys were actually doing or what Muslims want. Listen for yourself.
If we were to do this from 0 to 100, the people are going to...
We being what? Context matters. The country? If the country was to switch to Sharia law, that's not happening. It's not even possible right now. But hypothetically, should that be the case?
Say, we're not going to have this type. Look Afghanistan, look other places. And people understand they're not going to go from 0 to 100 overnight. Suppose a Muslim party, an Islamic party comes in and they start changing. You know what?
Yeah, so like democracy, right? But understand, as he says,
we want to make sure there's no alcohol being sold.
Okay, like in places in Utah and plenty of other states in this country that already happened like that after certain points in time because of their religious beliefs. Ooh, but it's bad when it's a Muslim guy doing the exact same thing. But understand what he's actually highlighting there is what we like. Okay, so you say a Christian group that comes to a certain community, they even say Michigan, Dearborn. You want to influence it away from what they're doing. Would that be evil? Is it only bad? It's the idea that comes from certain groups that believe that it's an only Christian country or whatever, which is just not the reality based on the way this country started. If you want that, then make the argument, as always. Just don't hide behind your dishonesty and pretend that you want things you don't to, I think, very clearly hide your bigotry, which is rooted in this entire conversation.
So can we, for the time being, because here's the point, any type of stuff we do, it's not astaghfirullah to substitute the Sharia. No, it's a program to eventually apply the Sharia, right?
Okay, great. I mean, that's it, guys. That's the whole point. I don't even know how those things connect or what he was really getting into. The context is not there. Point is that that's not even happening. There's no anywhere. Look it up however you want. Ask Grok, look it up, look at the legislative points on every single state. There's no effort of that. What you will find is ridiculous Zionists like Randy Fine trying to push legislation that says we're not allowing that, even though it's literally not happening anywhere and would be illegal if it even started. Doesn't mean it can't happen, of course, but it's obvious they want you to think this is happening to drive you into a position to where you can, coming back to the point, believe that somehow they're, go ahead and try it. We dare you. It's just this disgusting adversarial stance against Israel's enemies. That's it. I hope this is reaching people, guys, because the point is not that there's not extremists in any of these religions, including Muslims, but it's that it is being misrepresented about invading the obvious point that most even Republicans are seeing is that it's not Islam that's doing that. Oh, and this is to Grok. I just said, what percentage of Muslims in the U.S. believe in Sharia law? Evidence from reputable surveys suggests that only a minority of U.S. Muslims supporting applying Sharia in any official or compulsory way with the American legal system. Now, of course, it's a poll. Take it for what you will. You could argue it's lying. You could argue it's the polls you could find. The reality is the evidence as a whole backs that up. And on top of that, here's what Grok says, run by Elon Musk. U.S. Muslims generally prioritize constitutional law and show high levels of civic integration compared to Muslims in many other countries. For the most accurate current insights, refer to sources like Pew or Ivy. Okay. So, sort of like when you ask this question in regard to immigrants. Ask Grok, look it up in the stats from the U.S. government currently. And what do you find? That most immigrants, the numbers almost consistently, immigrants are committing less crime than the average American. Now, you could argue it's gamed, that there's more nuance to it, that's a part you're missing. Fine. The point is that's there and it does exist. So this argument that they're all the ones raping and murdering, and it is a construct, guys. And there are some, sure, just like there are Americans doing the same thing. The point here is that they will tell you every day Muslims are Laura Loomer, they're taking over everything, and it's just not backed up by the facts. Now here is John Fetterman sharing Ahmadinejad, quite literally somebody paid by the U.S. government. Again, same point. It is on the record. You have a State Department website saying that. You can ask Grok and he'll tell you, yes, she is funded by, and again, I only say that because people will try to push back on these data points because of where it comes from. If it somehow makes it more influential for you to look at what Elon says on through Grok, then you can look for yourself. And it says she is paid by the U.S. government. So what she says today, literally today, the 19th. And let's be clear before I even say this. There was already a lie floating about how Iran killed all the Olympic team because they didn't do well enough or whatever. That wasn't true, guys. It was very easily shown to be false. Didn't matter, though. It was shared by all these ridiculous people and half of the MAGA team, the dishonest ones. And she says today in Iran, in the middle of a war, the regime executed a 19-year-old national wrestling champion for the crime of joining January protests. Not true. Not as far as I could tell based on all the evidence. After signaling to the world, including President Trump, that they would, and here's the point, halt executing protests. That never happened. First of all, they weren't even doing that based on, other than Israel and the United States, every data point we can find, including from the Iranian labor unions that were supporting the protest, which they pointed to, which Trump said, look, we're at the protest, we support it. And then those unions stood up and said, well, it's not protests anymore. These are armed masked men from foreign countries. And then they told you, Pompeo, Trump, Mossad, Netanyahu, we're arming them. Oh, yeah, we're funding the Kurds. We told you that was a month ago. Guys, this is obvious. And so what the point was, they created an obvious insurgency, and Iran was killing people that were attacking their police and burning buildings down. Does that mean they didn't kill innocent people? No, I argue that they would be capable of it like anybody. Point is that they never once stood up and said, okay, Trump, we promise to stop doing something we weren't doing, or we promise to stop executing protesters. That didn't happen. This is a woman who's working for the State Department, and it says the regime has done the exact opposite. They promised to stop killing innocent people. Now they started again. Why does that even make sense to anybody? This is such lazy propaganda. And it says 3 young protesters were hanged in Qom after a sham trial. Reports indicate torture, forced confessions. Okay, there's nothing to back this up. Now, it very well could be true, but there's nothing to back it up. I looked at this all day. Of course, John Fetterman comes in and goes, the Iranian regime executed. Do you think for 1 second that he actually checked this? Anyone want to offer a guess as to whether he did his due diligence on this claim, or did he just reflexively share the allegation of this U.S. paid Iranian activist without any investigation? You can decide for yourself. As always, the reality. The core claim in the quote in the post by Fetterman does not appear to be true based on available information. There is no credible reporting of the confirmation of Iran executing a 90-year-old wrestling champion. And you could look anywhere you want. There's nothing about it. There's no information. This is basically coming through Iranian, the Israel-controlled, U.S.-controlled Iranian activists. And also, just before this, they lied about assassinating the entire team. That turned out to be false. I just don't know how many things we can keep. I mean, and what this needs to do is call up people like John Fetterman. Like, this guy is clearly just a player, and it shows you the overlap of the team left and team right, but they're just clearly on the side of the agenda. They'll share whatever, weirdly, just like the mainstream alternative media.